Hey guys, Argent Templar here. So this will probably sound whiny, but let's face it, half the videos on this channel are me whining or ranting or something to that effect in one form or another. So this is on the topic of people always tell you you gotta pursue what you want in life. You gotta go, you gotta get what you want in life. You gotta do everything to work towards that. Now this assumes that the question the this assumes that there's something in particular you want in life. I know people are saying, well, isn't there something everybody wants? Maybe. I think it's an open-ended question. Whether or not everybody actually wants something, or how badly they want it, etc. As far back as I can remember, I've never really wanted much out of life. Um, it's part of the whole emotional deregulation thing. I just don't feel desires like a normal person. A lot of people with depression don't. It's just not like you just don't feel like if you get complimented on something or you succeed in something, if anything, it just feels more painful. I know whenever I get complimented, it often bothers me. It just hurts me and it makes me feel more inadequate and more depressed, etc. Part of that's just my childhood having an extremely critical mother. Um, but in general, if something kind of positive happens to me, it just kind of fills me with anxiety, and I just don't find it particularly pleasant, to be perfectly honest. So no, as far back as I can remember, I never really wanted much out of life. I I occasionally feel some desires in some direction. But it just all feels, to me at least, like it's a learned behavior. Like, I don't really, most of the time, feel any emotional desire to really be with a woman. Um, I don't mean that sexually, I just mean to be in a relationship. I just don't feel a desire for that. I don't really feel a desire to get married. I really don't have any desire really to have children. Um, I just will state sometimes that those are my desires because that seems to be kind of the morally right thing to be pursuing. But I really don't feel any emotional connection to it. It ultimately just doesn't really matter much to me. I mean, there's a large part of myself that would just like to get the easiest job that pays minimum wage possible and just live in a one room apartment for the rest of my life. And I don't know, just sleep the rest of the time until I die. I just don't feel a strong desire towards anything a lot of the time. And this is kind of always the issue because the advice is always just focus on what you want and go get it. Well, what if you just fundamentally don't really want anything? I mean, it's an interesting question. I know I often talk about nihilism on this channel, but in a lot of ways, much of the time I am kind of a functional nihilist in terms of my emotional outlook. I just don't really feel basically feelings for other people or even myself. It's probably why I reference it's probably why I reference duty so much and social expectations. Because I find I in general just don't really have desires on my own. I just kind of try to learn what people I respect desire, and then I kind of just copy that. Like, I don't always really take pride in my work. I just think it's better to do better at your work than not do better at your work, so I just try hard at that. Similarly, good grades don't really give me pleasure. I just kind of do it because I think it's better than not doing it. Um, But ultimately, yeah, I think a lot of it, what it comes down to is I just don't feel a normal emotional range. So I've kind of conditioned myself. So if I do something that I think is socially faux pas, I will have an anxiety attack over it. Not even because I'm really afraid of it interacting with people, but a fear that kind of there's that to some extent that people can see that I'm not really a whole person, or that I'm not acting well enough. I suppose it could be. Because a lot of the time, that's just kind of how my life and my existence feels. Just kind of an act. Um, just doing things that I think are expected of me because I have no faith in my ability to make my own decisions. Like people will say, "Well, why don't you just do what you want?" Well, much of the time, what I want is to blow my brains out. To be perfectly frank, what I want is to severely harm or kill myself or go into a psychotic rage and attack people. I used to for a long period of time when I was on Effexor and it made me manic all the time, I just wanted to burn things. I never did. I'm not really a violent person. But that was kind of my desire back when I was on Effexor. I just constantly thought about how dirty things were, how bad people were, and I just had a desire to just burn everything. When I was a little kid, I used to idealize Hitler and Mao because they killed so many people. Because even when I was very young, I was extremely misanthropic. When I was like 7 or 8, yeah, Hitler and Mao were my idols. Because I just hated the world and I hated everybody else, including myself. And I kind of wanted to have another leader like them come to power so they could just punish us in the way that we demand. For the longest time, that was kind of the reason I hated Christianity. Um, because I thought it denied us the punishment that I thought we all deserved. Um, so I guess it's just that's always been an issue with me. Um, that just and maybe that's why I kind of sound confused a lot of the time. I know it drives my parents crazy. It drives people I meet crazy. Because for them, they don't have any kind of disconnect between their rational and emotional mind. My emotional mind wants to just burn shit, kill myself, and just do violent things. It's just kind of filled with hatred, resentment, regret, and a self destruction. The rational part of my mind basically just makes me try to act like a normal, well-adjusted person. Um, but it's completely against my what I want emotionally, and that kind of disconnect, I think, is kind of one of the primary sources of my pain, at least. But I think in general, for a lot of people with mental illness, and that's kind of what I think psychology is ultimately about. Is it's about trying to make people functional when their brains are completely dysfunctional, and the way that they would behave without is completely dysfunctional. Um, Kind of the medication therapy I have gone through haven't really. I don't know if they've ultimately really helped me that much. They just kind of make me functional so I can get up in the morning, go to my minimum wage job, and I guess keep trying to pursue a career I really have no desire for. I mean, it's hard because if people kind of run on a reward punishment system, and if your brain doesn't ever give you an award for anything, it's really hard to motivate yourself. Because to some extent, I kind of realize this is kind of the feeling you can't help but have. The outcome will be the same, more or less, regardless of what I do. I'll be miserable either way. Um, so I tend to use that, I suppose, in the opposite direction for what most people do. They say, well, the outcome will be the same either way, so I might as well do something that makes me miserable, but that is socially functional. So like, when I say all this, I don't want you to get the impression that I don't try in my life. I frequently do very well in school, and I frequently, when I was doing my job search, I did it wholeheartedly. I would spend 8, 10 hours a day sometimes doing it, following up with people, going to interviews, writing cover letters, reworking my resume, chasing leads, studying interview tactics, all that stuff. So I don't want you to think that. It's at the same time, though, subconsciously, I kind of realized, why do I even want to get a job? I mean, I guess I kind of just feel morally obligated to get one so I don't leech off of my parents forever. But I don't really think that having more money or having a career would really improve my mental state much. Um, Maybe it would, but I just can't look at it from that perspective, and I can't really comprehend it. All it really does is when I do something right, I can't really condition myself to feel happy, but I've kind of conditioned myself to just feel pain when I don't do something that I consider socially acceptable or socially right. So I just feel guilty, or I just feel emptier, or feel more depressed, etc. So it's whenever people are like, well, you just gotta figure out what you want to do in life and do it, and you gotta start thinking about your future. Well, what if like that's all well and good to tell people that and to say, oh, just do what feels good. But what if what feels good is blowing your brains out? What if what feels good is hitting yourself, or a desire to burn shit or something like that, or just kind of a nihilistic, destructive glee? What if that is your feelings and kind of what your persona's like, what your id's like? I don't know. I just know that's kind of a reaffirming thing, and I know this is gonna sound just like some dank shit, but I remember when I was in high school, and this was kind of a reoccurring thing. They would always make us do these stupid like fill out your goals. Like, what are your goals for the future? What are your goals for the next week? And I think I put down on one of them, my goals for the next semester were to not kill myself, or to or just to get through it and still be alive. And I know like my parents got furious at me and the school got angry at me, etc. But I was just kind of being honest, and I guess that's something I've kind of learned over the years in my real life. I'm just never really honest with people anymore. Because it's been made clear to me over the years that my actual personality, which I think really comes out in this channel, is something bad. I mean, that's kind of what my parents told me. That's what teachers tell me. That's what most adults I would deal with as a kid told me. Um, I know, particularly when I was younger, when I used to walk around and I'd kind of be depressed, people would kind of like get angry at me. They'd be like, "Hey, start smiling. I don't want to see that sad face." And I remember when I was working at my job, I was just kind of down one day, and they're like, "Why are you so sad?" I'm like, "Well, I suffer from clinical depression." They're like, "Well, you just have to smile and it'll go away. You just have to think positively." And well, I'm glad that they can do it, but that's just kind of how it was, and it's I don't know really what you can say about it. Maybe I'm self-defeating in my life. It doesn't really seem to stop me from trying. I mean, I've always received acclamation uh, at most of the jobs I've worked for being a hard worker, for being a good worker, for being an efficient worker. I've gotten rewards for it in the past. And whenever I've left the job, I've gotten glowing letters of recommendation. But I guess it's just that's kind of the way it is. It's something I always feel guilty about. I guess I wish I could have hope for the future and maybe um, feel more or kind of feel like a normal human being. I just can't. I guess a large part of just who I am and who I present to the world is kind of a contrivance meant to feel something I just don't feel. Anyways, I hope that was interesting in some sense. I hope that didn't make you want to kill yourself. This is Argent Templar signing out.